In a world where humans and AI are at war, a former soldier is sent on a mission to destroy a mysterious weapon, only to discover it's a childlike AI with the power to end the conflict. Welcome back to Favorite Recap. This is the recap of the movie The Creator. Enjoy the story. Several years into the future, humanity has advanced rapidly in artificial intelligence, leading to the creation of highly sophisticated robots known as simulants or Sims. These humanoid machines become an integral part of society, performing various jobs and even serving as companions, athletes, and law enforcers. To make them more lifelike, humans volunteer to have their faces scanned and replicated onto these machines, making the line between man and machine very thin. But in 2055, catastrophe strikes. A nuclear warhead detonates in Los Angeles, killing nearly 1 million people. The cause was a rogue sim created by the government. The West reacts swiftly, banning AI entirely, but New Asia refuses to comply, embracing Sims as equals. As tensions escalate, the United States wages war against New Asia, determined to eradicate all AI. Their most powerful weapon is Nomad, a massive space station capable of scanning the terrain below and eliminating any signs of simulant activity. The U.S. military's primary objective was to locate and eliminate Nirmata, the elusive mastermind behind the AI revolution. A decade later, American soldiers land on the shores of New Asia while Nomad hovers above, scanning for threats. Nearby, a man named Joshua lives peacefully with his pregnant wife, Maya, who has a unique tattoo on her body. Soon, their peaceful life is shattered when they hear a disturbance. Joshua quickly wears his robotic limbs and rushes to investigate, finding his Sim allies, a group of guards led by Haroon, who were holding an American soldier named Drew, who was caught sneaking into the area. Tension rises as a Sim mercilessly beats Drew to extract information, but he remains silent. Meanwhile, Nomad scans edge closer. Realizing the imminent danger, Haroon's group scrambles to prepare boats for their escape, while Maya hurriedly packs. Once alone with Drew, Joshua berates him for not stalling the invasion longer. That was when we discover that Joshua is also an undercover American soldier. His marriage to Maya was a calculated move, as she is the daughter of the wanted Nirmata. As the battle erupts outside, Joshua seizes Drew's radio and pleads with the American commander to abort the mission, insisting that Nirmata is not in the area. Maya overhears everything. Furious at Joshua's betrayal, she draws a gun on him, but before she can act, soldiers storm in and drag Joshua away. Maya flees to the boats, joining the Sims in their escape. Just as they push off, Nomad unleashes a devastating missile strike, annihilating everyone. 5 years later, Joshua has returned to the U.S., struggling with PTSD. He numbs himself with medication and attends mandatory therapy, where a lie detector ensures he is being honest with them. He now works as part of the cleanup crew at Ground Zero, where he and a colleague discover a deactivated robot. When the machine suddenly reactivates, moving and pleading for mercy, Joshua swiftly shuts it down, dismissing it as nothing more than programmed code. In the meantime, all captured robots are systematically destroyed. Later, at home, Joshua watches old videos of Maya, haunted by memories of how she once customized his robotic limbs. He had lost his arm, along with his family, in the LA blast. Trying to find something to do, he goes for a swim, only to be confronted by General Andrews and Colonel Howell. They offer him a mission. Intelligence suggests that Nirmata has developed a superweapon capable of destroying Nomad, a move that could shift the war. Joshua is the only one familiar with Nirmata's lab and is needed to guide an elite team inside. But Joshua refuses, reminding them that their reckless interference cost him his mission and his wife. Their actions led to this war, and now they expect him to fix it. Joshua is initially skeptical, but his doubts vanish when Howell shows him a holographic video proving Maya is alive and working with the superweapon. Eventually agreeing to go, he joins Howell's team as they head to New Asia. After Nomad scans the region, they land in an open field, and Joshua leads them toward the lab's supposed location, only to find an entire village built on top of it. The soldiers launch an invasion, rounding up the villagers at gunpoint. As McBride threatens to kill a child's dog, the terrified girl begins shaking her arm, pointing toward an altar. Joshua follows her gaze and twists a totem, revealing a hidden entrance to the lab. Leaving McBride and Bradbury as guards, the rest of the team infiltrates the facility, moving through a long corridor before mercilessly gunning down the lab technicians. Joshua scans the security cameras and confirms Maya should be nearby. The soldiers advance further, eliminating more scientists, but the rest quickly lock themselves behind bulletproof doors. Joshua then informs them that the locks require facial recognition to open. So, one soldier takes a knife and gruesomely removes the face of a dead technician to bypass the system. Meanwhile, outside, Bradbury spots the approaching police and quickly calls for air support before feigning surrender. As the Sim officers attempt to arrest her, the missiles strike, wiping them out. However, reinforcements soon arrive, forcing her to take cover. Inside, the team fights through more guards and reaches a secured vault requiring a hack. Joshua and Shipley stay behind to breach it while the others hold off the advancing enemy. As the battle intensifies, Shipley abandons the hack to assist in the fight. Eventually, the system unlocks the vault, and Joshua enters, only to find a young child sitting on a couch, watching TV. It was a shocking revelation because the child is a Sim, and this has never been done before. Before Joshua can react, a scientist appears from behind and shoots him. He then activates an emergency exit, allowing the child to escape with instructions to find Nirmata. Emerging from the lab, the child steps into the outside world for the first time, only to witness the brutal chaos of battle. Joshua follows, frantically searching for Maya amid the fleeing scientists, but she is nowhere to be found. The team retreats to their plane, realizing they've lost the fight and must escape before Nomad strikes. However, Howell delays, wanting to check something first. Meanwhile, Bradbury rushes back to the plane, but she is hit in the back. She manages to board the plane, only to discover that it was a bomb strapped to her body. Moments later, it detonates, destroying the aircraft mid-air. Joshua quickly rushes to hide, just before Nomad unleashes its devastating attack. The next morning, Joshua wakes to find the robotic child staring at him. He throws a rock to scare her off, but she casually tosses it back. Then, looking around the surroundings, he finds that Shipley is wounded, and he carries him to an abandoned house to escape from the patrolling Sim cops. Suddenly, a noise draws his attention. The child has followed them into the house, and she is watching TV. When Joshua turns it off, she effortlessly reactivates it with a mere gesture. At that moment, it dawns on him that the child is the superweapon. Moments later, Joshua's communicator buzzes. Howell is on the other end, but the call attracts a nearby farmer Sim. Howell orders Joshua to kill the child, but before the conversation could end, Sim cops ambush and arrest Howell, McBride, and Officer Bowie. Joshua tries to follow Howell's command, but he hesitates, as he is unable to pull the trigger on a child. His resolve weakens further when he notices her drawing Maya's tattoo. Just then, the farmer Sim approaches, vowing to protect the child, Alphie. But Joshua's translator exposes the farmer's intentions. Reacting swiftly, Joshua shoots first, eliminating the threat but inadvertently alerting nearby officers. Desperate for answers, he asks Alphie where Maya is. Without hesitation, she responds, Dien Dang. As the police surround the house and open fire, Joshua quickly drags Shipley and the girl into a nearby truck. The situation worsens when the cops throw a grenade toward them, but a dog unexpectedly intervenes, grabbing the explosive and carrying it back toward the officers. The blast wipes most of the Sim cops, leaving few who were scrambling to find their way. With the immediate threat eliminated, the girl uses her mysterious powers to activate the truck, allowing them to make their escape. Meanwhile, McBride and Howell seize the opportunity to eliminate Bowie and take control of his van. Wasting no time, they reroute their course, determined to track down Joshua. Further along their journey, Shipley, who has become very weakened by his wounds, turns his gun on Joshua, demanding to be taken to a hospital. Joshua, however, informs him that they are too far from any American base, but promises to take him to a friend who might help. Unfortunately, Shipley's injuries prove too severe, and he succumbs to them inside the truck. Joshua soon spots a car approaching and quickly covers the girl's robotic head with a hat. Since she has no name, he decides to call her Alphie after noticing the words Alpha Omega inscribed on her ear. When the car stops, Joshua asks the driver to give him a ride to the city. Later, McBride and Howell arrive at the same location, discovering Shipley's lifeless body abandoned on the roadside. Using an advanced device, Howell temporarily transfers Shipley's consciousness into Bowie's Sim body. However, the shock of seeing his own corpse causes Shipley to panic. In his final moments, he barely manages to mutter that Joshua was taking him to a friend before he dies once more. That evening, as Joshua and Alphie continue their journey, they are stopped at a checkpoint. Authorities have received wanted posters for both of them, and a suspicious officer orders Alphie to remove her hat. Acting quickly, Alphie uses her powers to cause a blackout, diverting attention with a sudden burst of sparks from a nearby sign. Taking advantage of the confusion, she reactivates the car and drives them straight into the city, successfully evading capture. Their daring escape is broadcast over police channels, alerting Howell and McBride to their whereabouts. Elsewhere, an officer who shares Bowie's face due to being from the same donor discovers the bodies left behind. Meanwhile, in the city, Joshua presses Alphie for information about Dien Dang, but she remains silent. Before he can get any answers, the police arrive, forcing him to drag Alphie onto a train for yet another escape. During the ride, Joshua notices several women who resemble Maya, only to realize they are simply Sims with her donated face. Alphie, who had become curious about existence, asks Joshua if good people go to heaven. Joshua admits he doesn't believe he's worthy of it, while Alphie questions if she even qualifies as a person. As she sleeps, Joshua recalls the day Drew assigned him the mission to marry Maya, giving him a wedding ring embedded with a hidden tracker. As night falls, Joshua and Alphie disembark from the train, only to see their faces plastered across the city's wanted screens. When one of the bystanders recognizes them and alerts the authorities, Joshua rushes Alphie into a sim factory, seeking help from an old friend, Drew. Since the devastating attack, Drew has had a change of heart, now fully supporting AI to the extent that he's in a relationship with a sim named Cammy. Joshua asks Drew to extract Maya's location from Alphie, but her encryption proves too complex. Instead, he suggests tracking Maya's ring, only for Drew to reveal that Maya is presumed dead. Refusing to accept this, Joshua insists on continuing the search. As Drew examines Alphie, he makes a startling discovery as he finds that her capabilities are evolving. While her range is currently limited, she will eventually gain the ability to control all technology remotely. At that moment, Alphie tells Cammy that someone is coming for her. Checking the security feed, Cammy finds nothing out of the ordinary, just a food delivery. Moments after closing the door, the delivery man reveals himself to be another buoy, accompanied by a squad of officers. Before anyone can react, he activates a bomb hidden inside the food box, instantly killing Cammy. Then, the cops storm the building, aiming to capture Alphie, but Joshua arrives just in time, gunning down the attackers as Alphie calmly watches television. He fatally shoots Bowie before turning a cop's own weapon against the remaining Sims. However, more police vehicles close in fast. Without wasting another second, he grabs Alphie and pulls a grieving Drew to safety, narrowly escaping before the next wave of officers arrive. Meanwhile, inside the building, the search for Joshua continues as two officers reveal themselves to be Howell and McBride. Howell takes Cammy's head, planning to hack into her too. Sometime later, Drew's computer tracks Maya's ring and finds it in Joshua's old home. When they get there, Joshua immediately enters the house, only to find the ring on the flooded floor. While he watches the security recording of the attack, Alphie comes to warn him that the soldiers are coming, but Joshua snaps and yells at her. Alphie starts crying and Joshua finally sees her as a person, so he hugs her as he apologizes. Suddenly Drew comes in to warn them of the attack, but he gets shot down. Before dying, he reveals to Joshua that Maya is Nirmata. That's why they attacked 5 years ago. They were not allowed to tell Joshua because of his love for her. After hearing this, Joshua tries to run away with Alphie, but they're immediately surrounded by Sim soldiers led by Haroon, and Joshua is knocked unconscious. That night, he dreams of meeting Maya at a bar, recalling the story she once shared of how she had been raised by simulants after her father fled the war. So, she grew up deeply connected to AI, loved and protected as if she were one of them. The next morning, Joshua awakens inside a holding cell aboard a military ship. Haroon arrives to explain more. Maya's father was the original Nirmata, but after his death, she took on his legacy. She created Alphie as a last hope to stop Nomad. The nuclear bombing in LA was not the work of machines, but a human programming error, yet the humans blame AI. If the Sims win the war, they don't seek vengeance. Instead, all they want is peace. The army, however, is manipulating Joshua's longing to see Maya, using him as a pawn to lead them to her. Before Haroon can decide Joshua's fate, chaos erupts outside as Nomad launches an attack on their base. Seizing the opportunity, Joshua convinces Alphie to help him escape. He dives into the sea as soldiers fire at the water, but he survives. Then, clinging to the boat, he goes with them to the city. Upon reaching the city, he observes a surprising sight: humans and Sims living together in harmony, mourning their dead ones. He sees a teacher educating children on peaceful coexistence, a stark contrast to the war raging elsewhere. That night, Joshua waits for Haroon to fall asleep before activating a shutdown command on his system. Attempting to escape with Alphie on a boat, they are interrupted by an alarm announcing the Americans' arrival. Massive tanks roll in, unleashing destruction. Alphie, witnessing the devastation, leaves Joshua behind, determined to fight for her people. The battle turns brutal as both sides suffer heavy casualties. Howell deploys a rudimentary robot, sending it across a bridge before it detonates, killing several soldiers. A second bomb follows, but Alphie intervenes, disabling it with her abilities. However, McBride shoots Alphie down, and this enrages Joshua, who retaliates by killing McBride. With Alphie unconscious, the bomb reactivates, but Joshua manages to grab her just as the bridge explodes. Haroon, after seeing all Joshua has done, now trusts him, and he agrees to take him to Nirmata to save Alphie, while the war rages on. Elsewhere, Howl reassembles Cammy, torturing her for intel before disposing of her again. On their journey, Haroon reveals one final truth. Maya had completed Alphie days before the attack, and she had used a scan of her own embryo, making Alphie a replica of Joshua's deceased child. Eventually, Alphie is taken by monks to a hidden sanctuary. When Joshua asks if they have arrived at Dien Dang, he is told the truth that it means heaven. They finally tell him that Maya is dead. Entering the temple, Joshua finds Alphie recovering beside Maya's lifeless body, sustained by a machine for 5 years. A monk explains that she is not truly alive, rather she's just been merely preserved. The simulants, unable to harm Nirmata, leave the painful decision to Joshua. Overcome with grief, he apologizes and disconnects the machine, ending Maya's existence. Soon, the temple falls under attack with American forces killing the remaining Sims. Howl enters, holding Joshua at gunpoint, and begins downloading Maya's consciousness into a chip. However, Haroon soon arrives and fires at Howl, but the attack triggers an immediate response from 2 soldiers who shoot him down. As Howl approaches to check on him, she fails to notice the bomb strapped to her back. In a split second, Alphie activates it, eliminating Howl and the 2 soldiers. Despite his injuries, Haroon manages to rise to his feet and urges Joshua to destroy Nomad. With no time to waste, Joshua grabs Alphie and Maya's chip before making a swift escape. Their attempt to flee is short-lived. The Americans quickly track them down, separating them before taking them into custody. As they are being transported, a massive explosion engulfs the area, signaling the destruction by Nomad. Later, inside the Los Angeles base, Andrews presents Joshua with the ultimate proposal: eliminate Alphie, as they are unable to extract any useful information from her. So, after thinking for a second, Joshua approaches Alphie, whispering something into her ear. Moments later, Alphie's vitals flatline on the monitor, leading Andrews to believe she is dead. Joshua carries Alphie's body toward the incinerator, but as they make their way through the facility, Alphie suddenly reveals she is unharmed. Joshua had instructed her to enter standby mode. Using her powers, Alphie manipulates the vehicle's systems, forcing it to crash and blocking the road. With the guards momentarily disoriented, Joshua seizes the opportunity to grab Alphie and escape. Their destination is the spaceport, where Alphie once again taps into her abilities, overriding the boarding machine to grant them passage onto a plane. As the aircraft takes off, Andrews issues new orders to redirect the flight back to base. However, Alphie intervenes once more, overriding the controls and steering the plane straight toward Nomad. Upon arrival, the passengers safely disembark before a squad of armed guards storms the plane. Joshua reacts quickly, opening the hatch and creating a powerful vacuum that sucks the guards out into the sky. With the immediate threat neutralized, he prepares an explosive device. Meanwhile, Andrews initiates a large-scale strike against all Sim bases, setting the stage for a catastrophic destruction. Joshua, realizing the urgency, hands Maya's chip to Alphie and instructs her to halt the attack while he sets the bomb. Alphie navigates through the corridors, eventually reaching the missile control room. Just in time, she uses her abilities to freeze the missiles mid-launch. Meanwhile, Joshua successfully arms the bomb, triggering a 10-minute countdown. Alphie rushes to reunite with him, but she soon finds a chamber filled with dormant simulants, including one resembling Maya. Acting on instinct, she installs the chip into Maya's unit, but nothing happens. Outside, a few missiles break through and totally obliterate the villages. Meanwhile, Joshua's oxygen supply begins to deplete, but Alphie arrives in time to drag him to a room with breathable air and manages to revive him. However, Andrews deploys a last-ditch effort, an octopus-like robot that captures Alphie. Joshua springs into action, cutting off the machine's tentacles by slamming the pod door shut. But before they can fully escape, the robot ensnares Joshua. Alphie responded by using her abilities to force it to release him before sending the machine falling to its destruction. With the pod's door jammed, their escape window was now narrow. The bomb detonates, igniting a chain reaction that destroys Nomad and neutralizes the incoming missiles. With no time left, Joshua reassures Alphie, telling her they will meet again in heaven. He releases the pod, sending Alphie safely toward Earth. Accepting his fate, Joshua turns back and is met with an unexpected sight. The Maya simulant awakens. The two embrace, sharing one last moment together before the explosion engulfs them. As Alphie's pod lands safely on Earth, she steps out to witness a world transformed. The simulants celebrate their long-awaited freedom, as their fight for survival has finally come to an end. And that is the end of the movie, The Creator. If you enjoyed this recap, consider dropping a like on the video and subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching.